This is the everything you need to know here on Destination Calcio. David Ferrini, Emmet Gates, Dan Cancian at the round table here. Caffè del Tasso, one of the iconic venues in Bergamo in the Città Alta. What a place this is, located in northern Italy, about 40 kilometers to the northeast of Milan. Good trip, easy trip getting here from London. The city's divided into two districts, Città Alta, Città Bassa, the high town, and the low part of the town where the stadium is. We'll get to that in this pod. Boys, how are we feeling? That vibe of Bergamo, cold weather, it just ties into the football aspect, yeah? Emmet?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic 3 days, David. Obviously, we landed on Friday, went to the game last night, and been around the city, the Città Bassa, the Città Alta, and it's been fantastic.
Big difference between the two, the medieval charm up here. We've been here once before, and maybe we'll show the viewers a clip of that last time. It was a disaster when Como visited, and the game was cancelled. Nothing but water. You had to throw out your shoes.
Yeah.
Don't know if I got any footage of that, but it was a game that was called off. Como then played the next night. The upper city, that medieval charm that we're talking about, it is picturesque in this Piazza Vecchia.
Yeah, exactly. It's UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a beautiful walk, lovely views over the city. Would highly recommend staying in this part of Bergamo.
The 16th century feel. I think that's when those walls were built in Bergamo, when it was part of the Venetian Republic. Dan, and walking down to the game last night, you've done a little mini tour. You've gone out for the squeeze of the content for us.
Wherever you look, there's history. It's just like everywhere in Italy, really. There's history surrounding you. There's beautiful scenery. Bergamo is touristy, I would say, but it doesn't feel busy, and it's incredibly clean. Again, the views from the walls looking down to the lower city, and the Gavis Stadium obviously stands out, recently renovated. And I can't think of any other stadium where you can have such a nice walk. We basically walk down from the Città Alta through a nice park, then to the lower city, across so many different bars and restaurants and wineries on the way, and then through another little park, which actually reminded me a bit of a walk through Stanley Park that separates Goodison and Anfield, like a park that connects to the stadium. So then you're there, and the stadium is so enclosed within a residential area. We stopped at a bar full of Atalanta fans last night just before the game. It's a brilliant place. I think I would recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's got a nice energy about it. There's a blend of the old and the new. Obviously, we're in the old part, but if you go down to the Città Bassa, it's more modern, and it's just got a nice, real mix about it. There's something for everyone: old, new, medieval, modern. Obviously, the G-Wis. So yeah,
and two worlds. And Emmet, we prepped you before the pod on the history of Bergamo. Can you name the roots that it goes back to, by any chance?
You put me in the spot.
The Celts and the Romans, for the viewers out there. None of us knew that, but look,
I wasn't asked.
Dan, I didn't ask you, I know, but the artwork, especially where we're staying in our accommodation, we're right here in the old part of the town, and just the ceilings, the cornices, everything. I mean, look at this particular venue we're in right now, Caffè del Tasso. I mean, you feel like you're walking in a picture that someone's painted. Let's highlight a few of the main attractions the visitors shouldn't miss. You two have been out in the town, the Piazza Vecchia, of course, where we are, the heart of the Città Alta, absolutely immaculate. The staircases around, the winding lanes. We had a really good meal around the corner. The historic buildings, the Palazzo della Ragione, and it's just magical, the timeless vibe. Emmet, what else have you seen here that you might like to describe?
So me and Dan went for a couple of walks today and yesterday. Obviously, you have the Mura, the wall of Bergamo. Beautiful just to take a stroll, especially yesterday, Dan. As you know, it was very sunny. It was nice. It was 9-10 degrees. Nice for a walk. We walked down to the Città Bassa, and we went into the Atalanta store, where we bought a limited edition Atalanta shirt, celebrating their Europa League win in Dublin. The Basilica at Santa Maria Maggiore.
There is different kinds of art throughout both the lower city and the upper city, but they seem to mix seamlessly. if you know what I mean,
And they do with the funiculare as well.
They do, exactly. Yeah, you never feel like there is something out of place. I told Emmet yesterday, it's like watching one of those time lapses when you start with something and then you end up with something completely different. And that's, obviously I'm an art critic by any stretch, but that's what it feels like. The art is always around you here in Bergamo, and it just looks so different from everywhere I've been. I can't think of a city that is effectively split in two parts like this.
Yeah, it's quieter up here, but it's much more touristy during the day. At night, it's much more quiet. We're filming this in the evening about 7:30 on a Sunday. We've already been to see the game yesterday. We spent the day getting around. It wasn't too bad, the weather today, but yesterday was beautiful. The sunshine, having the coffees out in the Piazza Vecchia is just... we can't even describe that fontana in the middle, the white artwork around that, the staircases, the column with the clock there as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Also that a gold statue on top of the basilica, the church bells, which we've all been dealing with.
Yes.
Now, don't come to Bergamo if you don't like church bells ringing at about 8 a.m, but, it's one of those things you have to brave to enjoy Italy in general. They do love their churches here. Down in the Città Bassa, everything right on your doorstep. That's where the train station is to get here. And the transportation, fairly good from the Bergamo airport, 20 euros.
Yeah, exactly. It was 20 euros for the cab. And I've seen it's obviously in the upper city, you don't see that many buses. But as soon as you step outside the walls, there are buses everywhere. Emmet and I've seen a lot of people cycling. Obviously, Lombardy has a big tradition with cycling and cyclists. And even though it's incredibly steep, people just seems to embrace the challenge. And but yeah, when down in the Città Bassa, I think it's like being in any other city in terms of transportation, and it seems very walkable anyway, which always makes the experience a bit better, a bit nicer.
Loving the Bergamasco vibes. What about the Cuisine?
Today, Dan and myself had the Cancian, which is native
and recommended by Danny.
Yep, and recommended by Danny Bird.
Thanks for that one, Danny.
Shout out to Danny from Hull. We had the Cancian, ravioli with meat inside. You've got sage, butter, pancetta, and it's native to Bergamo. It was very tasty. Coming to Bergamo, it's local, so yeah, try it.
Yeah, 100%. I never had it before. I never even heard of it until today.
Yeah, same.
And it was just amazing. And I'll have to say, the thing that is impressive about Bergamo is how cheap it is compared to other places in Italy. Even though, we are in what is effectively probably the most touristy part of town, the prices are very, very...
Oh, pizza for €8.
Yeah, exactly. They're on the lower end of the scale, and which is remarkable because you can go to places in Italy and pay twice as much for a pizza, which is nowhere near as good as the one we had on Friday night.
Yeah, $7.50 for a pizza Napoli. The margherita came out today. We went to Circolino twice.
Yes.
We've eaten here as well. Very nice food here at the Tasso. But Circolino, great restaurant. Huge. It's like a multi-level.
3 floors.
It's like it's the same size as a nightclub.
Yeah.
Restaurant.
Well, it wouldn't be surprising if after hours they could get the vibe happening there. Lovely views from inside to outside.
Do you think that's where Atalanta celebrate the Europa League?
Probably, yeah. Well, they are going well this season in Serie A. Let's not forget they did lose last night though, and what a vibe it was at the Gevier Stadium. It was probably the best game we've seen, and we've written some pieces on it on destinationculture.com. Dan, take it away.
Best game of Serie A season by a countryman. I think it had everything. Swung this way, then the other. Then, we said when we came in, because we were close to the away end, and we said, this is scripted for a late winner in front of the away end. And sure enough, that's exactly what we got.
Yeah, it was an action-packed game right from the kickoff. The pace was relentless. And I think, obviously, we talked about it earlier off air. There was a goal every 15, 20 minutes. So all 5 goals were paced out throughout the game. It wasn't like there was 4 goals in one half and then 1 in the other. It was a classic. It was 1-1. Or 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, and then 3-2. Lukaku getting the header. About 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, and the good thing is, if you're thinking of visiting Bergamo as a town, the Bergamaschi, the Atalantini, they're not too bad. They're not grumpy when they lose.
Yeah.
They lost last night. They're used to winning. They've won the Europa League.
Yeah.
They've been doing quite well. Gasparini on the brink maybe of winning a Serie A one of these years, we hope. Love to see it for a small town, but it does have the cable car. It's got cheap transportation, cheap meals, and the vino is unbelievable. All the drink selections were on the Amaro Montenegro tonight, Dan. Cheers. You're on the waters.
Yep,
and
on Aqua.
dry Jan, maybe a dry 2025. We'll keep you updated with that one for Emmet Gates.
Wait for the article at the end of the year.
Yeah, but the local wines, the region around Bergamo produces some fantastic stuff. So, that is another thing that you can add. Obviously, you come into Italy, you're going to find wine. It's like water.
And on that note, it's not just that, it's the variety of bars they have. Every bar has, you don't get the identical bars that you get in other parts of the country. Every bar has its own vibe. We went to, 3, 4 yesterday, and we experienced everything from your local sort of bar around the corner from the stadium, which did its job, just wheeling out pizzas and beers for the fans, to more sophisticated, let's say, drinking establishments, such as the one across the road from the stadium.
Yeah.
And the one we're in now, which I believe is one of the oldest cafes in Italy.
Yeah. 1476, Emmet. We've seen some pubs in central London that old.
Yeah.
The old bankers, the captains of the ships, especially when they founded Australia. All those kind of guys were in London doing the deals. And I guess back in the 15th century in Bergamo, this place was where you would meet. And, I think behind me is Gasp himself.
Yep, there he is up there.
So definitely come here, Piazza Vecchia, Caffè del Tasso, Bergamo as a city. Music as well, the musicians, the Irish bars, the pubs, everything's here. Everything you need to know here in Bergamo. DestinationCulture.com. Watch live Italian football on tv.destinationculture.com and download the app today. And done.